Nothing just is. There are always people who need to take it upon themselves and build things. At first, one must choose something worth fighting for, something grander than the people involved. Above all, one needs to start. Merely thinking about it doesn't get you too far. Do you need a dose of craziness? Hell yeah. Do you know what lays ahead? Maybe, maybe not. Perhaps there's a clear insight guiding you and you can almost see the path. You just need the right, insanely passionate people. To find them all in a small town in the heart of Transylvania seems like a piece taken out of the great legends. But some legends are true. Extraordinary things really happen in spite of all odds. But it's people that make them happen. People that raise above their condition to bring fire into the world. The path is not easy. It's still damn hard and painful many days. But is it worth it? That is the only question. The breakthroughs we've made, the products we've built, the friendships we've forged, the small and grand ways we've found to improve people's lives. These are the things that last. These are the stories worth telling and retelling. So, here it goes. This is our story.
So my name is Dan Voicu.
Daniel Serb.
My name is Sebastian Marian.
Iulian Pașcalău.
I am Robert Sasso.
Everybody call me Corco.
So I'm Adrian Dobrița.
Radu Chiș.
Yeah, my name is Andrei Marinica.
Constantin Tovisi.
I'm Lucian Mincu.
So my name is Lucian Todea.
I'm Benjamin Mincu.
I was born in 1988.
The year I was born is 1991.
1978.
1984.
91.
1989.
1986.
Pretty long time ago.
I was born in 1987.
93.
1988. I've had a lot of ideas in mind over time, but probably starting with inventors and then going to philosophers and then engineers or scientists.
I wanted to be a fireman.
Funny enough, I want to be like a businessman or anything to do with business actually.
Soccer.
Locomotive driver.
A programmer.
An artist. To be a painter.
Metal band guitarist.
Being an engineer.
Piloting my own rockets or something.
Taking apart toys, equipment.
I want to do sports.
I saw with my brother starting exploring and playing with the PCs, then basically that was become very early, I think, my passion and not a job.
So I remember very clearly when our father essentially brought us the first computer. It was 286.
Most of the stuff that I got was the refurbished hardware from my older brothers, and it was a necessity basically to still be able to put it together.
It was that funny game where you had to, it was like volleyball, where you had to like cross the ball from one part to another. It was just a basic game, but I remember I was really fascinated by it.
I got hooked, of course, first with games.
Yeah, of course, I started with games.
Yeah, and the internet was just an amazing place.
The internet, which blew our mind completely.
I was very fond of mathematics as a young child, and then I got into physics.
The RoboCup project.
Actually, I've disassembled a TV remote control.
I got my first computer from my cousin when I was in second grade.
There were several realizations, of course. I had been in the blockchain space and in the technology space for several years. Throughout the time, I've been either part of founding or core teams in several projects and so forth, but then also essentially investing in tens, if not hundreds of startups in the space. So at that particular point in time, I was essentially aware of all the startups that were trying to solve different problems in the space, and then at the same time very up to date with everything that was in terms of academic literature on the subject. So the first idea while working on something else with my brother was just that realization that some things were not done correctly, that there was something missing, and that something could be done a lot better. Of course, that we discussed with some of the startups that we invested in, and then thought about solving the problems with them, but then nobody really cared enough to solve the problems in the way that we thought was important. And so at that point, this huge opportunity sort of emerged and became clear to me. And I started discussing it with Lucian, and then with the guys. Of course, there were several steps until it became clear that we validated, we had a breakthrough, and could move forward. But it was very, very fascinating. And then in the span of 1 or 2 months, this idea that was extremely intriguing became this really large thing that around which we started reorganizing everything that we were doing up until that point.
Benjamin reached out to me. He always said that I was already in a good path, very good path at doing my job, trying to learn, explore stuff.
I prepared this entire plan to meet with him and have an entire conversation about the future, about the really cool things that we were going to do.
And then once he discovered Bitcoin, basically he came to me and said, you know, you ignored sometime the first message that you should read the white paper. You should definitely look into it because sounds very similar to what you're doing, what you are developing, and so forth. And that might be something that you will be very, very into it once you understand.
The idea of convincing him to at least temporarily leave Germany and come to Romania so that we can really push on some of the things that we were already doing much more focused and in a much faster way. And then that was extremely important because at the point where we discussed about Elrond, he was already in Romania. We were already working on something that was working out really great. We had a team, and the tricky part was just that when something works out great and you're in a good position and you're trying to start something even more challenging, it's always fascinating how you put or position the problem.
I think once I read the first paper, the first white paper of the Bitcoin, and then understood the entire networking stack, especially from what my background was at the time. I got passionate about, and I knew that basically there's gonna be an internet inside the internet.
We had the startup as we were preparing to rearrange everything we were doing in order to focus fully on Elrond, and we were gathering the team. We were trying to rearrange what we were doing with the startup, and I was looking for other really smart, resourceful people that could take this, move forward with it, and so forth. This is how I started the conversation with Lucian.
Our first conversation was online, on Facebook Messenger, I guess. Benjamin wrote me, I heard that you've built some tech startups, I want to meet. Usually I don't respond like out of nowhere, this kind of messages, but I think, I'm not sure if he mentioned something about blockchain. And at that time, I already started looking into it and having some small investment at that time. So basically, after 2 or twice, we tried to meet, and basically, at some point, beginning of 2018, we met at my office at that time, and we had a very interesting conversation.
I've thought about this idea that in the future, in 5 to 10 years, looking back, I will only ask one thing. Did this great or challenging thing we were doing work out or not? If it would work out, nobody would care about the second startup or the third project or whatever. And so we said, if he's really resourceful and smart and nice, then we should definitely stop what we were doing on that front and just get him part of the focused Elrond team.
Interestingly enough, our first conversation was not about Elrond, although it was about the blockchain. At that time, they also, Benjamin and Lucian also had like, I would say, a side project at that time, still on the blockchain side, and we started discussing about that. But Benjamin told me that he also has a, let's say, a more interesting idea. And at some point, we started discussing about Elrond. And I believe I told him, Benjamin, you know what? Let's forget about this side project and let's only focus on Elrond, and just focus on that, and let's keep everything else, leave it aside.
It was very, very, as I said, I think very, very interesting and challenging on the one side to drop everything what we did before, drop all the projects or the pipelines, all the discussion that we had previously with any other colleague or future colleagues, and then change not only ourselves, change everybody around.
And this is what we've done, and yeah, I'm quite happy and excited with both of them that they joined and we could push things forward.
And yeah, that's how basically I got part of the team together, the very early ones. Such Dani Voicu was one of the guys that worked with us and engaged, especially from communication standpoint, from the marketing standpoint, from a very early stage.
Basically, I know about Elrond before it became Elrond. I was there since the beginning. I was part of the first startup that Benjamin and Lucian had, ICO Market Data. So we basically got to know more about the crypto space, and we were helping others in educating them a bit and just like showing them what we know about the space. And yeah, and then in parallel, like 2 months later, Elrond started.
With each of the people that we recruited and invited to come in, we had some problems that we specifically discussed, that we gave to them, and only the ones that were exceptional at those problems and showed an ability to not only be extremely smart, but then extrapolate their knowledge in a field where they did not have immediate knowledge, and showing that they could navigate around the problem, find other solutions. This was the great signal that they were really good and fit for one conversation, because the first thing was a recruitment for an initial first conversation. That was the conversation where we discussed the idea for the first time, the idea of the architecture, what it could do. And then with that step, we started a 1 month period just focused on validating the core hypothesis that we had a breakthrough. It was crazy because all we did was sit in one room with blackboards full of math, and then eating chips and Coke and all of that.
I knew Lucian from when I was in Munich. I was there for like 5 years. I was contracting there for Intel, and Lucian was in the same group of friends, so we knew each other. And then after I finished my last contract with them, I went back to Romania, doing some freelancing. And that's exactly when Lucian came also back to Romania, and he called me to have a discussion.
I was actually working with one of the co-founders, Lucian Todia, for more than 10 years when he joined Elrond.
I went back to my previous manager at the company I was working at, and I told them I want to quit, and they asked me, so what are you gonna do? And I said, well, I'm gonna go work for this company no one has ever heard of, doing things I don't understand, but it feels right. So yeah, it was a bit of a leap of faith.
Actually, I had a colleague in my at work when I worked at that time, and he was a friend with Benjamin, and actually my colleague recommended me to Benjamin, and how the discussion started at that point.
There were a few calls from Lucian and said, hey, I got something very, very nice to build together.
A friend of Luci and Benny told me that some people are looking for the best minds in Sibiu, and they are trying to start a team over here and create a blockchain from scratch that's going to be faster and more efficient than anything that's out there in the blockchain space.
I was a colleague with Radu at my old job at Elrond Team. He joined Elrond and he was still part-time at NTT. I was already flirting with blockchain. I was hoping to build something on Ethereum. There wasn't any idea specific or something, but I wanted to work in blockchain, and he was already at Elrond.
I saw that there was the first Elrond some meetup in Sibiu, and I went there. I started to ask them hard questions, because that's what you do. And then in the next day, I just sent the CV to the team.
Actually, they found me. They somehow found me. I don't know how. I think it was one of the other guys who told them about me. And I remember when we met at some point. It was a very nice day outside. We were, drinking a cup of something. And I remember I was incredulous that I had found them, and they were a bit incredulous that they had found me. It was like a match made in heaven.
The plan was to first publish the white paper of the breakthrough that we thought we had, and validating it, making sure that all pieces fit together, validating the core hypothesis was extremely challenging, because it spanned across a few different fields that even for some of the people that were part of the team were at least in part new. So during the first months, we essentially had to split the different components, do state-of-the-art research to see what were the best options for cryptography, what were the best algorithms that we could focus on, what was the best consensus algorithm. Of course, for each of them, we already had some ideas, but those needed to be very, very detailed, validated, to make sure that this was indeed one of the best, if not the best solution in the world at that point. This alone was a major milestone for the entire team, because the people discovered that they could really move mountains, that together the team had superpowers, and we could achieve some things that were perhaps thought to be impossible, especially at that time, because when we started this idea, most of the people, and by most I mean 99.9% of people, did not think this was possible and that we could do that. So the fact that we moved forward was just great and the natural thing to do. Now, after validating the core hypothesis, we essentially built the prototype, we built the first version of the testnet, and then moved to the first version of the mainnet. Each of the steps were very, very challenging, but I don't think while we had the plan was constantly upgraded, constantly changed. It never went according to plan. I'd say that almost for each step, there were defining moments. The first conversation that I had with the initial team was one defining moment. The first confirmation that we really had a breakthrough was another defining moment. The first version of the prototype validating in practice that we really had something special there was the defining moment. Then another defining moment, but in a much more painful and challenging way, was the realization that from prototype to the first testnet, we had to completely rewrite everything because everything broke down. Nothing worked, and we were under insane pressure.
In my personal view, the first, let's say, aha moment was when I read the white paper. And then the wow moment was when we had the first prototype. So basically when we first saw that what was researched and in theory written in that white paper start working.
I think one of the most challenging part, making sure that everybody's still following, everybody's still pushing full speed ahead for the same mission. And that repeats for the last 5 years, I think, since where we started.
Every now and again we have this kind of watershed moment when there's a big component coming out or a big idea, and you have to really plow through because nobody's gonna do it for you. You're on your own, so yeah.
Probably the most emotionally charged and challenging moment for me personally was at the launch of the mainnet.
It is a tough question actually, because all the moments were special, and all the moments have something unique.
Actually, all the moments.
The thing I remember most was a call I got in 2 a.m. that a smart contract written in Solidity for the Genesis before the launch had a bug, a critical bug. And it was really scary, but fortunately it was just a view function bug. It wasn't anything critical.
Every living moment that you are there, this is what you do. You are faced with challenges and you have to find solutions.
I think one of them was the mainnet launch. We were struggling a lot to fix all the problems and have a solution that would not break after launch.
I clearly remember one night right before the mainnet release.
I would say the launch of the Meyer app. Definitely, it was such a challenging period because it was the first time when we had to make sure that the release goes extremely well. We had to launch onto different platforms.
Yeah, the mainnet launch was by far the most painful and craziest experience out of all we've done, just because of the level of complexity that was involved and the number of things that were involved. And the whole point was that all of it compressed for that particular day. It had to be done in a record time, and then going through that entire process was something that cannot be erased from memory. From that point onward, we've had several other defining moments, like launches of different products or challenges in the sense of hacks or things like that. but each of them, I'd say, we've taken with special care and attention just to solve them and be able to move forward.
Actually, I think something that's very defining is that a lot of us grew up together, and it's more than just a company. It's like family mixed with like very good friends, and so that's what makes it special.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely something special.
I don't think it's something particular with the Sibiu town. I think most of it comes from the type of person you are, and how you can rebound, and how can you communicate with others many times without words. And I think that is the secret.
I'm as shocked as you are. Especially because I've worked before in other companies in Sibiu, and we always had trouble finding people. When we always blamed it on the city, and we always blamed it on the city being too small, too few people. But turns out if you have a powerful idea, strong incentives, a good story, I think everything just clicks together.
It's definitely, I'd say, part of the Sibiu mafia. Or the Roman roots.
The creation of the team and being able to get the best minds from Sibiu together on the same project, I think that was the detail that other projects maybe don't have.
I think that the ones that got inside were the best people we knew, and then they also brought the best people around they knew. So kind of we formed the nucleus there.
The brothers, Benny and Lucian, how they started to build up the company, they were always about internal recommendations and bringing friends.
Yeah, to be more specific about Sibiu, I moved out from Sibiu, I think, very early, as I stated before, and then I came back to Sibiu explicitly for building Elrond, building the journey together, and making sure that everybody is progressing enough. I think that's my statement, especially about Sibiu.
I believe my answer now, and maybe in a few years, maybe I'll be smarter and have a better answer. But I guess once you want something really, really bad, and you really, really believe in it, then it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter that, let's say, the pool of people that you can get is smaller than, I don't know, in Silicon Valley or in Paris or in London or whatever. If you really, really want, and you believe that you want to get there to build something, you'll make it.
It's definitely all of those, and there's also maybe an element of a thing that cannot be expressed like that cannot be put into words, and that for each new breakthrough or new idea, there's a special path that needs to be found. And I really believe that with Elrond, this is the one thing that we've discovered. It's indeed a breakthrough, indeed a technology that will change people's lives, indeed an exceptional team with which we can build rockets. And even with all of those, without the effort that we constantly put in, we would not be here. I think that the most remarkable thing that we'll see with blockchain technology is, on the one hand, it being embedded in the foundations of internet technology, just having the ability to make transfer of value or of anything financial on top of the internet at an instant with trivial cost, available and accessible to anyone in the world. And that alone will be extremely good. At the end of the day, the whole point will probably be that blockchain technology will be by far the most important economic multiplier since the invention of the internet. But this part, I believe, is very obvious. This is the one thing that everyone sees and will probably discuss quite a lot about. The most exciting and intriguing thing, I think, will be the metaverse. And the idea with the metaverse is that without a blockchain, it cannot exist. The whole point of the metaverse feeling real, feeling very similar to what we have in reality, is the persistence that a blockchain gives with its foundation, with its own rules. The ability to define this and then build entire economies in it. Explore, learn, go on different adventures, discover new things. That will be probably the most exciting frontier that we're going to explore.
1 billion users.
In the future, I see Elrond becoming a fabric of maybe multiple worlds.
I think Elrond will change the world.
We could have a global adoption, and I think also the states could use our blockchain for their businesses, for their finances. I think that would be onboarding the next billion people would be something really, really remarkable in the future if we could really do that.
If the team plans, as Benny used to say, I think at first it was more like a kind of a joke, like if we want, we can build rockets. But who knows, now I'm pretty confident that the team can build rockets if they put their mind to it.
I think a very big milestone for us will be to bring developers to Elrond.
I think when people will start using our applications, especially Myar, like Revolut or stuff like that, for everyday payment and everyday banking and everything, everybody is on there, even like my mom or even like my grandma.
For me, transparency is so important, and it's so important in the world today because it's so easy to manipulate with half-truths and whatnot. And I also think that our democracies are very, very dependent on transparency, on truth. So I think actually blockchain can be an amazing tool for that, for helping us make decisions together in a very, very transparent way. So actually, I really dream about seeing blockchain at some point used in a public administration, stuff like that. I'm actually very, very fond of the idea of DAOs, of decentralized autonomous organizations, where people just get together and they do stuff together. And there's no need for an intermediary, and they find their own pace and their own way of trusting each other.
The most important part is that up until this point, everything was built inside the company, and it was about delivering and building the blocks for everybody around us to succeed. Now I think we are at a turning point where everything is open, is out, is live, and I think they are the most critical points, building blocks for the success of any other company around us, any other ambitious founder, any other ambitious team is right now live and can benefit from this. And yeah, I think this is one very important point that we will see. Because of those building blocks, I think we will change many lives around us, many other aspects from around the world, from the world that we know nowadays.
Yeah, so zooming in, one of the greatest achievements for Elrond that of course is still going on is basically building how Benjamin, and I'm gonna quote him on this, building a team that can build rockets. And I believe this is maybe one of the reasons we are here, is basically we managed to have a very, what we call core team, a very strong core team. This is like a foundation that we managed to get very, very smart people. And is this saying all the time, you should not be the smartest guy in the room.
We have several products that we've been working on for some time. Some of them we've shared with the community, some of them we've not shared. Some of the ones that we've shared are definitely the NFT marketplace that we're going to launch with several large partners from around the world. And here there's something special, as with all the products that we're building at Elrond. Of course, there's one thread that we've opened for a long time, and this is the thread of the MyRDEX and the new economic model that we're building. This is a very fundamental problem in the entire ecosystem, and a very, very fascinating open challenge, because whoever can solve this type of challenge will completely redefine the DeFi space. Now, in addition to this, we have several very important upgrades to the core protocol that will enable new things, such as more specialized methods of scaling for some particular use cases, more specialized and advanced methods of privacy preserving computation. And then in addition to this, there are other key milestones that are going to be enabled just to complement the entire ecosystem that we've built. All of this is going to happen during the next weeks, and that's very exciting, and that's the one thing that we're pushing forward to. But there's something even more special, something that we've been waiting for a very, very long time to do, that the entire team has been waiting for and has been pushing towards. The entire community has been looking forward to. Partners have been asking us for a very, very long time. And we're now finally ready to unveil this part and invite you to the very first Elrond conference, the very first super special Elrond event, which will happen in Paris in November. Be there and come build and help us grow the entire Elrond ecosystem. Thank you.